Well, first of all, thank you all so much for being here tonight, and for the gallery, these ladies, we couldn't do it without. As an artist, they make us feel so welcome, and the events and the community they build are amazing. And just the curating, I always put full trust in them, and you can't do that with everyone. And I love that we can just give them our artwork, and you just feel so loved and supported in this space. So thank you all for being here tonight. So I'll get started on. I think as a visual artist, the speaking part is always the most difficult. We love to put our emotions and our feelings in our artwork, and conceptualizing our ideas and sharing them can be sometimes difficult. So I have my speech when I forget things. But in this exhibition, I really explored the concepts of time and space, both in my life as well as my art practice. This collection really reflects those moments that anchor me in the present. So I think we all experience these phases in our lives where we aren't quite where we used to be, and we're not quite where we want to be. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in going so far behind to the past, or so far forward and dreaming too far, that we almost forget to live and be in that like present moment. So interstice, by definition, is kind of the intervening points of two things, so that in between. So I love that word, and that word kind of came after I thought of this in-between stage. It was kind of the in-between stage of me as my personal life as well as an artist. I think I was doing a lot of art classes and then drifted away from my painting and then just kind of got back to it. So I found myself in this in-between state. So I love that word. It kind of, as an example, it's that blue sky that comes out when you have a cloudy day, or there's a crack in the ground and a little plant comes through. So that's an example. So when I heard that word, I knew I really wanted to do landscapes. I wasn't quite sure which direction I was going to go. Obviously, we're in Colorado, mountains are everywhere, but as I started painting, I found that the fields and the rolling hills and the paths really showed that kind of distinction. So the bottoms were really that kind of earthly, which I felt like was that rooting, kind of that past, and then that kind of otherworldly, where I really wanted to have, you know, some of them have really large horizon lines, like really low, and just that very vast big sky, and others are further up, and that's kind of that in between the past and present. But also these fields helped me to really highlight that horizon line, and to me that was kind of representative. I can't say that. Anyways, it represented that present moment, that horizon line, but it also kind of melted together to merge the past. So that was kind of the idea and concept behind it. And I always find nature is my greatest teacher. I think we're so lucky in Colorado that we're surrounded by nature. We can all get out outside, but it's always in flux. Just, I think, as our lives are, it's shifting, it's changing. And when I was getting resource photos for this exhibit, you know, I'd really sit and study the clouds, maybe even from the same spot, same location, and it's just amazing how much they changed and how much that, to me, reflected our own lives and how they change and evolve, whether it's through the season or through the weather. I mean, even the fields would kind of dance depending on if the wind picked up or the sun hit it in a certain way. So you'll see some of that glow come in, and that's kind of, you know, I love just kind of picking up just the accents of light versus putting all the details of, you know, the grasses. I still wanted it to have an abstract kind of feel to the landscapes. I chose oil paintings because of their ability to kind of melt and blend together. I think they kind of take on a sculptural feel in 2D form. Even in different lights, I hope that, they kind of have some movement to them with the bold brush strokes, and that was the idea of me making them a little bit more abstract. This one over here is actually the very first painting I did in the series, and I think it has a little bit different feel than the others, and there was a certain point where I actually thought about not including it in the exhibit, but I think it's so important, and maybe this is kind of the teaching side for me, but I think it's so important to include the very beginning of an idea too. I love seeing artist drawings or where the idea came from. So this was kind of the direction I was going, and then it kind of started to get more blended together and melted together as I moved on. I think my very last one was actually this one, which is the most kind of blended feel, I think. So, but I think we progress even in our own collection. This wasn't a very long time, but that I was working on all of them, but they do kind of change and evolve from the very first one to the last one as well. My palette, I really opted for kind of a moody. I wanted that moody atmospheric feel to the pieces. So I would take my primaries or my brighter colors and mix in complementary colors to kind of get that more muted feel. I also played around with doing underpaintings, not just in like neutrals or browns that you often see, but actually blending a bunch of colors together, and then working wet on wet medium to really get that kind of more muted tone to it. So I was working when the oils were still wet, I'd keep coming over with layers. There's a few that I wanted a few more highlights, so I'd wait till they were dry to kind of add the very last layer, but for the most part, I kind of worked wet on wet for the oil. I think I still want that mystery for the viewers. I think sometimes in the artist talk too, it's like how much do you want to share versus how much do I want the viewer to be able to, perceive it on their own. But to that point, I also, I didn't work from just one reference photo because I really didn't want someone to be taken to one specific location. So instead, I actually went out and took photographs of skies and then of the ground, fields, hills. Also found some royalty free of some skies as well. And then I would actually work from a variety of photographs because I wanted it to have kind of that mystical, like maybe that you could find a place that you can connect to by memory without saying, oh, that's Garden of the Gods. Or, I wanted the viewer to actually have that kind of feel where they could be kind of transported somewhere. Maybe a memory or a place or a feeling. So hopefully that helps. But yes, I forgot to bring up the resource photos. So yeah, I think for me, just going outside, and I don't paint in plein air very often. I'm more the person that kind of takes photographs and brings them back to paint. But yeah, I just kind of fell in love with skies and clouds, and I think it really did have that, that feel of grounding and then otherworldly, which I think can be so powerful for all of us, whether on a spiritual or artistic. So I actually just print them on my copy paper, and I just put 3 of them by me, and I'm starting to look at them for the lighting, the colors, and then at a certain point, I just push them aside where I don't want to actually look at them that much more. Once I have the basics down, I want to actually just kind of flow with whatever direction it takes. And it might end up not looking at all like the photograph or similar to a few of them. So. Yeah, mainly lighting. Mainly lighting for me too, and especially the clouds. I think those are the hardest to kind of capture. They can be light at the top sometimes. Sometimes they're light underneath, depending on where the sun is and how it's reflected. So, yeah. So I was a fine arts art history major, and I went the graphic design route. So I was in graphic design for about 15 years, and then I just kind of got exhausted of being behind a computer. Really, I don't know. I think a lot of people that are in any creative field, you kind of get this like feeling where you have to use your hands again. And I miss that. And I was at the point in my life where I could kind of transition. And so I slowly started painting again as I was working, and then shifted into a lot more teaching online. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, did the painting and the teaching online and quit my job. So yes.